million is a big number.
Huh?
A year. So I've been here 4 years now, so that's already like 15 billion just off of this place alone.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Here, have a seat, have a seat.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a little crazy right now.
No,
Mike.
trust me, I understand.
So what's going on with you, Mike?
Nothing. So I think I looked at my DM to try to figure the last time that I was here, and I think it was like November of 17.
A couple of years ago.
Yeah. And I think that, which was right before I hired a full-time videographer. I was still, like doing all my shit on my own at that point.
You got a whole team behind you here.
Yeah. So Dylan now runs literally all my social
media.
So he creates it all. Like if it's posted, to the point where I'm not even posting it.
Got
If there's a reply or a DM, it's 100% me.
Got
but
it.
like I'm not posting it anymore.
It's like automated.
But basically, like, we have like a calendar meeting every Monday, and we'll sit and go through the week's worth of content and approve like down to like hashtags.
Yeah.
And I see you doing a lot of the same things.
Yeah.
So I kind of just wanted to like talk more than anything, because like in my mind, it's like I see the landscape changing, and I think automation of the real estate business is coming in major ways. And I think those that are doing the things that we're doing and talking to people and developing relationships and being on social is going to allow us to continue to stay relevant when we're competing against computers rather than other companies.
I mean, look, Mike, for me, the whole approach or thought process was to create a community, right, where people can exchange ideas, maybe learn a couple things too, and really learn from each other. So, ultimately, I think real estate financing, it's all a commodity. Right, we're all selling the same thing.
Right.
So how do you kind of separate yourself from everyone else? It's your story, your approach, and then pretty much just like what you're doing, Mike. It's great. I think there's a lot of things that you put out there that people can learn from, and I think we continually evolve. For me, this is something new that I've been doing for like the last, I would say, 8 months. Trust me, it's uncomfortable, right? Having someone follow you, and I used to have someone follow me like 24/7. I've kind of scaled that down a little bit just because. On the bank, it's on the bank side, it's a little bit different. Some meetings he can partake in, some meetings he can't.
Absolutely,
just because it's high level.
Right. It's same thing with him.
Yeah,
like if he can't be in the meeting, he's in the office.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but I think most importantly, when we whiteboard, when we think about themes and messaging, that's really it's helped me really put together a frame of mind as to what do I want to convey, and what are some of the things that we can do differently to continually add value, right? But I think the key is to just document your everyday life, and take snippets of that, and then just put it out there. But I'm still learning, I mean, I don't have the keys or the answers to everything, but
I mean, it's just the world is changing. I'm curious as to what your thoughts are, and like what you're seeing on your side of the business in regards to, because I'm seeing a lot that consumers are more educated than ever before.
Oh, for sure.
So they're playing ping pong on everybody. They're playing, like I watch them play ping pong on mortgage brokers, right, when I'm on the representing them side. But I know they're playing ping pong on us as well. And like I've hedged on my business and my relationships being on the listing side of the business, which I think will be the last one to fall. But I'm just curious as to like what you're seeing when what you do and how you're adjusting to that.
I think, technology has really evened the level playing field, right? So everybody has information, and they probably come in, wanting a rate that they already saw on their internet. So they already have a rate in mind already, even though they're calling you on the mortgage side. But I think ultimately, if you're a true professional, you're going to give them options. So just because they come in with a 30-year fixed rate in mind, doesn't mean that that's something that I offer. Because if I just regurgitate a 30-year fixed rate, I added no value. So a lot of times, even Steven, he's one of my top bankers here, he'll always give advice as to what's the best for them, right? So as long as you're adding value and they're getting something that they didn't think that they were getting coming in and seeing you, most of the time salespeople, they tend to just regurgitate what the customer wants.
Right.
But what they fail to kind of understand is that you're the professional.
Right.
It's like seeing a doctor.
Right.
If you just say, hey, I think I have I think I have a flu. And he's like, yeah, you're right, you have a flu. Here's a prescription. Then he didn't really assess you, right? So I think really assessing the customer, even on the real estate side, mortgage side, whatever that is, and taking your job away and really looking at a holistic view. Meaning, if they come to me and they're looking to buy a home, one of the first questions I ask them is, this your first time buying a home? Are you an entry level buyer, right? Are you getting married? Do you have kids? Because if you do have kids, this may be your starter home, but you may want to think about something down the line.
Right,
It's
right,
gonna
right.
be your forever
Right,
home.
right.
So just asking them a whole ton of questions is key. And even in on my line of work, there's too many loan officers just being order takers.
So how do you manage that?
So how do I manage that?
Yeah.
It's all through training.
Mhm.
You just have to just keep on reminding the bankers to ask a lot of questions. Don't talk as a salesperson, right? Don't sell anything until you actually get to know the client first. Because you really want to understand what the skeletons in the closets are, what are their main concerns,
Mhm.
what are some of their challenges. And then once you find their challenges or what their purpose is, right? Sometimes it's not always the lowest rate.
Right.
Sometimes it's about payment. Sometimes it's about cash flow. And sometimes it's really about leveraging other things, right? Paying off debt. So you really have to know what their purpose is, but you can't know if you're just selling rate. You know what I mean?
Right.
Same thing on the real estate side, right?
Right, no, 100%.
So,
It's
but-
the differentiating yourself from the 22,000 other
Yeah.
brokers in New York.
Exactly. I think the social media piece really comes into context when you're trying to create value for the masses, where if they ever had a thought or a question in regards to real estate, you're constantly giving them pivots, right?
Mhm.
So automatically you're not selling, it's not a hard sell.
Right.
So you're just giving, right?
Right.
And you know this more than
Right.
anything,
Yeah.
following Gary and everything.
Yeah.
You give first, and then automatically they already know what you do.
Right.
So that the business just comes, right?
Right.
The purpose isn't to get more business.
Right.
The purpose is really to give information. And I
Mhm.
think in this, marketplace, there's technology where you can find quotes on rates or a listing on a real estate.
Mhm.
But there's not a lot of education on the process,
Mhm.
what they should be looking for,
Yeah.
things of that nature, right? So that's
Yeah.
really what I'm trying to create, and even on a real estate side, but really on an entrepreneurial side as well.
Mhm.
So
how do you envision
like
the move, like the next 5 to 10 years?
I think you're gonna see less of print ads, and you see less of that already, right? People going to different social media platforms, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. But I think if you look at statistics-wise, people spend most of their time on YouTube.
Mhm.
And I think if you look at the kids these days, they all have this whole YouTube sort of cult, right?
Mhm.
Everybody's going to YouTube, even TV. If you look at statistics-wise, people watch YouTube more than they watch TV.
Right.
So I think building a platform on YouTube, on these different social media outlets, one thing that people have to realize, it's free as well. We're
Right.
spending hundreds of millions on print ads and advertising and marketing with all these publications. But this is a free platform. I think people are just sort of, they're not sure what they want to put out there.
Mhm.
And I struggle with that all the time too.
Right.
Which is, what content do I really want to put out there?
Mhm.
But I think as long as you're putting out content,
Yeah.
just answering your question, it's going to be towards YouTube, it's going to be towards these social media platforms. So I think the more accessibility you have, and the more content you have, and the more exposure you have,
Mhm.
I think you'll slowly create a following or a community.
Yeah.
And at that point, you have a platform, right?
Right.
You have the audience.
Right.
So.
Where I was going, and I appreciate all that though, is like, I think all of our businesses, you're going to see a significant drop in the amount of employees that are doing these things.
Definitely.
Because of tech companies creating products
Yeah.
that are going to eat up 30 to 60% of the business.
Yeah.
So how do you hedge against that?
Look, there's always going to be machine learning. There's always going to be, folks that are creating tech solutions that will eliminate the labor force, right? How do you compete against that? It's like anything else. You have to find your niche.
Mm-hmm.
You got to find what you're good at, and pretty much, what is it that they can't replace that you bring value to? Whether that's no matter what you're selling, right? If you're selling a product, that's why if you look at companies like Nike and all
Mhm.
these other companies, they're selling Louis Vuitton. It's about the experience.
Right.
I've never seen so many more pop-ups before where they're creating not only the shoe itself, but the whole experience.
Mhm.
Nike IDs are popular. Why? Because you get to customize it and make it your own.
Mhm.
So they've put in a lot of that sort of.
They've been doing that shit for a long time.
They've been doing it for a long
I
time.
remember they had one of their first stores on Elizabeth Street.
And that's why they're constantly evolving, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing on the mortgage side or on the real estate side, which is, what type of experience are you giving to your clientele?
Mhm.
Are you just showing them homes, or do you have something else that you're putting into your repertoire?
Mm-hmm.
You know, are you talking to them about, you know, different markets that you see are somewhat a 5-year play down the line? Those are things that they can't find out, right?
Right.
But you can actually add value and be
Right.
different.
Right.
Things like that, where you're like, you know what, I'm really connected to the city. I think, you know, from having these meetings with a couple of, you know, policymakers and councilmen, I know they're going to be building like a park in this area, and there's going to be a ton of retail in let's say certain parts of Brooklyn, which I know of right now,
Right.
which I think is going to be a game changer, right? So things like that, where our clients can't find out about, you're going to add value. People are going to say, "Oh, have you spoken to Mike yet?"
No.
You know, he actually has a lot of things that he can recommend us in terms of navigating towards different marketplaces. Because if you look at New York City, it's a 12-mile island, especially Manhattan. They're just recreating these neighborhoods, right? And it's all about having your finger on the pulse as to what's going on.
Right.
That's it, you know.
So part of what's always intrigued me about you is like you're very successful at a very young age. Like, and not just in this, like the basketball shit and all of that. Like, what drives you? Like,
you know, I gotta really thank my upbringing. You know, my parents. You know, obviously coming from a you know, immigrating parents. You know, you see the hard work that they put forth. You know, and I think it's the mindset. You know, my dad always told me, look, you know, whatever you put your mind to, you're going to achieve, and that's cliche-ish. But when you actually see it happen with your parents, and they work 3 jobs each, and they sacrifice so much, and then you just see that, you know what, if you can actually do half of what they did, right, and kind of just put yourself in that position, because everybody has an opportunity, right? Everybody always has chances,
right?
But it's really about your mindset that people can't take away. So for me, being a walk-on, it was really about me believing myself. Obviously, you have to have the talent, you have to have the skill set.
Right.
But then there's something that people you can't really touch and feel. It's an intangible, which is like right here.
Right.
Right. It's your mindset. Like I know so many people that are so smart and have so much potential to be successful, but they give up. And you know, there's this book that I read. You know, 3 Feet from Gold.
Okay.
And you should read it too, right?
Yeah.
It's basically the person was digging for gold, and
where they came like so close.
They came so close.
Yeah.
But had they dug 3 feet to the right and 3 feet to the left, instead of continuing to dig lower and lower, they would have found massive amounts of gold.
And then they sold it for like pennies on the dollar, and the next person came in and capitalized on the whole thing.
But they gave up because they kept on digging. So a lot of people give up, but they don't take a step back and say, okay, how do I find the solution? How do I overcome? So for me, you know, I tried out, what people don't know is I made it my junior year. I tried out twice. I got cut twice, you know, and I got laughed at. And, you know.
Do you tell that story?
You know, I'm gonna put out that story soon. You know, pretty much when I went I played at rec leagues, right, at UConn my freshman year, and people were like, Ace, you're pretty good. You should definitely, you know, try out. So there was this guy, Nigel, who was the facilities manager, and I asked him where tryouts were, and we were cool, you know, he was pretty supportive. He told me he was at the Armory building, and that was my freshman year. I went to the Armory building, guess what, Mike? Nobody was fucking there. You know, and ever since that day, you know, I was trying to find where the tryouts were. I finally found this girl. She was like, what do you mean Army building? It's at Gamble Pavilion. So I run there. The doors are closed. It's too late. I go back to him the following week, and I'm like, Nigel, what's up? Why'd you tell me the tryouts are at the Army building? He's like, Ace, are you kidding me? Look at you. You know, you're good, but you really think you're going to make it onto the UConn men's basketball team? You must be kidding, right? So he like laughed it off. I'm like, Nigel, I was serious. You know, at least give me a shot. You told me to go to a freaking Army building. What's up? So ever since that day, that kind of like drove me. You know, if it wasn't it wasn't even to prove to him, but it was just to know and not regret. And ever since that day, I put a little sticker on top of my bed, on top of my, I guess, pillow, and it was heart over talent, right? And
but then you went sophomore year and
tried and I tried out. I got cut. Coach said get a little bit, you know, bigger. I made it to like the final cuts, but tryouts at UConn, you try out, you get selected. Maybe you get selected for the first 15 for that day, but then it's also another 3-month period that you're on the gray team, gray shirt.
Okay.
And then from there they cut down to 5, and then from 5 they cut down to 2.
Okay.
So it's a long-winded process. You can't just have a lucky day,
right,
hit all your shots,
right, and
you're
like,
done,
oh,
right?
you're good. Yeah.
So it's actually a 3-month period, but it's like I cut my sophomore year. I needed to get bigger, so I didn't have any money, so my parents couldn't send me to stay for the summer. So I had to get a part-time job. I stayed on campus. I took a couple of classes too, and I worked out with the team. And then my junior year, I made the team. So I had a lot of sacrifices that people don't see, huh?
What was that like? Like actually like having that moment where you were like
make it on the team?
Yeah.
I took off my jersey. I was like naked. I ran around the thing. I came out. My friends were all waiting to see if I made it.
Yeah.
So like there was like maybe like 30, 35 of my friends outside.
Yeah.
And it was just like euphoria, like a feeling that I would probably never be able to replicate in my lifetime.
Yeah.
But it was just like joy and like, tears were coming down, and it was just one of those things where back then, being an Asian basketball player on a Division I, top elite school was not common, right? So I just felt so proud for like all of those folks that couldn't do that wasn't as lucky as I was, and I thank Coach every single day. I'm sure there were a lot of other talented players, but he saw something in me that was different, and that I will always be forever grateful, and that's what I kind of take that mindset over to the working force too, which is I always give everyone a shot, because I believe that in life you can't make it on your own, and everybody talks about what they did, right? What they did, but they never talk about what were some of the influences in their lives that actually helped them get to where they are.
Right.
Like this part is missing from the story, and I'm one to always be appreciative, and you have to realize some of the folks that have helped you shape you to be the person that you are today. So I was lucky in college to have a coach. I was lucky growing up to have my parents, and I was lucky enough at the work environment to have Dottie and Howard, who really.
So then, like those are very big names. Like, how did you land that?
Where?
With Dottie and Howard, like those are like the upper echelon of New York real estate.
So basically, sorry, I have an 11 o'clock
call.
Totally. I'm just going to jump on and then we can continue with this. But so at the time I was 31 years old. I was an area manager at Bank of America.
Okay.
And I was managing the Queens and Brooklyn market for Bank of America, and I was tapped on the shoulder to possibly have an opportunity to work at Wells Fargo. The only caveat to the Wells Fargo position was they also had a joint venture at the time with Douglas Elliman. And one of the, the situation was I had to interview with Wells Fargo, which they already wanted me to become an area manager there. But the deciding factor would be Dottie and Howard interviewing me for the DE Capital position, which was really not that it wasn't as well known in the marketplace. So I was the last person in the interview. I walk in the interview. Dottie says, "Oh, you look like you're 12." So that was great, I was 31 at the time. I looked really young, and I didn't have the resume that the other folks had. I was the last one being interviewed. It was 5 o'clock. I was there from 10 o'clock, and it was 5 o'clock, and 5 individuals went before me, all titans in the industry. Right, 20 years of experience, 22 years of experience. I'm like, holy shit. But what I did do, because I didn't have like a huge resume, I didn't run any companies before, I did a lot of research. And I researched DE Capital. I called a couple of developments. I pretended I was a buyer, and I asked them if they had any financing recommendations. And they all said Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citibank, and I asked them, why? What about DE Capital? I heard about DE Capital. They're like, yeah, that's our sister company, but they're not that good. Don't use them. So I was like, wow, okay. And then I noticed that the bankers or the loan officers, they weren't really looked upon as one team with Douglas Elliman, right? So on the sales, on the website, you don't really see DE Capital being listed on the website, or there were no bankers. So I assumed that there were no bankers inside the office. So, after I did a little bit of due diligence, when I went to the interview, I told Dottie, I don't have like a huge resume. I never ran a company before. But what I did notice was when I called, they're not promoting your company, DE Capital. I think we need to change that. I think we need to really emphasize the real estate agents and let them know what value DE Capital can bring. Because Dottie had a vision of a one-stop shop, separating herself from everyone else, right? And it was
Makes perfect sense.
So I mentioned that. I mentioned the fact that I wanted to have loan officers within the real estate offices so that we can create synergy. And then I also said that maybe managers, some sort of their bonus incentives should be towards, really supporting the bank. And then last but not least, Dottie, I need you to talk about DE Capital. And I need you to support DE Capital when you're up on stage and whatnot. And she said, Ace, you know what? After I said my spiel, she's like, Ace, hold on one second. She called Howard and she's like, I think we found our guy. I thought she was talking about the guy before, so I'm like, shit. I'm like, I messed this up,
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I gotta go. And then, lo and behold, no, the rest wasn't history. She offered me the job. I went back home. I told my parents.
Where's home?
Woodside, Queens. So I was born and raised in Queens.
Okay.
So I grew up in Woodside, Queens.
My parents are still in Regal Park.
Yeah, you told me. So then I go back home. I tell my parents, obviously being the conservative parents. My dad was okay with it, but my mom was like, look, you're at Wells Fargo. You're at Bank of America now. You're crazy. You don't know anything about running a company. And she was worried. It was done in a good way.
Understandably so.
So after that, I was like, shoot, maybe I'm not ready. So I told Dottie, no, I can't take it. So for 2 years, I actually said, no, I'm going to stay being an area manager. But I still managed the joint venture. But 2 years later, Dottie's like, Ace, you're going to have to make a choice. Right now, you're toggling between Wells Fargo and us, and I need you to either, come here, 100% or go there 100%. And, I put faith in her, and I told Dottie I'm going to make mistakes, and she's like, Ace, you know what? You can make mistakes, but just don't make the mistakes twice. Learn from them, right? And I'll be here to support you. And I went back home one more time, and I said, Mom, Dad, I know I haven't taken it for 2 years. I'm 31 now. I'm young. I'm going to make mistakes. But, if I don't take this opportunity, I'm going to regret it,
Yeah.
So I took it. And now the next 8 years, the rest is history.
That's
Been
amazing.
working a lot with Dottie and Howard,
That's incredible. But it's how small the world is. So it's like things randomly, serendipitously happen if you put in that work to be different.
If you put in that work and you put yourself in those positions.
Yeah.
But look, I could have easily turned it down, right?
Right.
Because I wasn't sure of myself.
Yeah.
So those are some of the defining moments that I thought were pretty key,
That's dope.
Yeah.
So, like, you grew up in Queens?
I grew up in Queens, yeah.
So you're what, 39?
38. No, 37.
Where'd you
Turning
go to-
38.
Where'd you go to school?
Huh?
Where'd you go to school?
I went to IS 125 in junior high. High school, I went to Bronx Science. And then college, obviously, I went to
I'm gonna
UConn.
hold that against you. I went to Tech.
Oh, you went to Tech?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
But listen, I actually do have to get back to my office because I have meetings.
definitely.
So you can grab your coat, but let's grab a drink sometime or dinner or whatever it may be.
Anything that you need from me, Mike, just let me
That'd
know.
be cool. Absolutely.